What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Miami Comedy Podcast. So, we just got off a live stream, had a great writing session, went online looking for what's trending, what's relevant and relatable in the city of Miami. I go in the news section. Sure, it's cold around here. Something about a fugitive, something about sports. But then there was this article right here that goes to show that flexing in Miami has been taken to another level. Apparently, some influencers in the, as the article would call them, manosphere, go to nightclubs, buy these signs that are offensive for the sake of garnering attention. I read this and I thought to myself, that goes to show you that being wealthy in Miami has been exhausted online. How many times does an influencer got to show you the kind of Lamborghinis they drive? How many times do they got to show you how big their mansions are? How many times do we have to post about the pool party with all these bad bitches or the yacht full of women? It comes to the point where when you have money, you need the attention to back it up. But here's the thing about attention. Once you've done something, it doesn't get as much attention as it used to. So now it's been taken to the point where you got to buy a sign that is offensive in order for people to give you a brand new, refreshed take on giving you that attention that they also crave. So, I read this, and it wasn't done once. It was done a few times, actually, in two different nightclubs. So if you've already done the cars, if you've already done the women, if you've already done the mansion, what's left? Consequences to your reputation. To go to show how much money could be spent and how much you can recuperate because you're that powerful. That's what we dig around here in the city of Miami. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Did it get enough attention is the question we ask. And surely enough, there was a marketing meeting where these people got together and they said, what are we going to do? Post this again? This is so 2022. And I think that these kinds of personalities can't be wealthy quietly, because money without attention to these people is emotional poverty. They don't want wealth. They want witnesses. And money alone isn't going to hit. Attention is the real currency, they say. If no one sees it, are you really that successful? Having money without attention can be depressing for some people, especially in the city of Miami. We need those thrills. It's not enough to be rich. Under-acknowledged is the real problem here. So there are people in Miami who would rather lose money loudly than to make it quietly. And that's what we're witnessing here. You know what I find the most interesting about this story is, where does this fall when it comes to the First Amendment? Now, who gets blamed for being offensive here? Can they tell the court that this isn't hate speech because they didn't say it, it was written in a sign, and they didn't make the sign, the bottle service girl did? How does this work? This is like a slippery slope. It's actually intriguing to see how they can get away with this and how much money was involved. Because clearly this was done as a display of power. And they knew the consequences, but they did it anyway. Everybody did. So this was like a test to see how far they can take it, seeing how far they can go, and just to check to see if they can get away with that in Miami. It was calculated. And it's advertising if you really think about it. Can you write this off in your tax form saying that this is just a form of promotion? I also think about, what is the complete opposite, and why would something like this be considered headlines? Since this was planned, how do you make it so that you find the complete opposite? If you were to, all right, give me an example. If you were to get a sign that says, don't forget to call your mom and tell her you love her, would that make it to the news? Is that enough of a flex? Is being a good role model considered being manly? And so I think about the thrill that these kinds of headlines would make, and how the marketing team said, look, the next thing we got to do right now is just offend as many people as we can with hate speech. And let's do it in a city that loves dopamine and loves a good scandal, Miami. Because this could have been done anywhere. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew Grand Theft Auto was going to release repping Miami. This is the city where you get the most views as possible for such a scandalous act, because we love sensationalism around here. We love when people are acting reckless with their money, especially. These people are influencers for a reason. They know exactly what they're doing. And it's like virtual drug dealers, but the drug is our dopamine. Negative attention still pays. Outrage counts around here. It's valid here in the city of Miami. And influencers that know what they're doing do it well in our city. We went from flexing money to flexing women, hell, to throwing it out a window in a balcony and getting your 5 minutes of fame, to hitting on women and saying, yo, we fucking or what? And making a reel out of that. We are so addicted to the next hit of dopamine in this city that we've essentially created virtual plugs for it. These people know exactly what they're doing. They know the chemistry. They know us all too well. A little too well, if you ask me. So when they know how to deal the drug that is dopamine without having to see you face to face, and to do it legally, and to find these slippery slopes like buying bottle service with a sign that causes outrage, you got to admit that we are entering an era where we no longer need the drug peddlers of other countries. They're right here in our city, creating content that gives you a hit. We are in the dopamine business. There should be some sort of research where they check the brain levels here, just so they can realize that we have so much dopamine in the city that we can flip it into a business. We are dopamine drug dealers. And everything that makes local headlines is the next hit. Imagine being addicted to the city of Miami, like you're addicted to the lifestyle. And I felt it too. You know the amount of times that I've gone on a trip to go to the cabin in the woods to enjoy myself and get out of the city life? Give me like 48 hours of nature in a national park before I get the itch of like, oh my God, where are the bad booty bitches at? I can't I've cut my vacation short just to come back to Miami to get a hit of this city. You can see a bear once and be satisfied. But a big booty Latina while you're getting bottle service is a whole different level. You'll never get tired of that. You've seen one bison, you've seen them all. But you haven't seen all the bad bitches here in the city of Miami. One is never enough. What is the complete opposite of this kind of promotion and attention seeking? Eventually, attention is going to reset itself. It's a cycle. People try things to get the attention, but then eventually it reaches a peak where you can't go past it, because then it ends up being like something extremely criminal that could be used in court. You got to find that rub where it feels criminal, but it's really not. And I think we discovered it here in the city of Miami with this last attention-seeking attempt. So what's the last flex that nobody really wants to do around here? The final flex, I think, in the city of Miami is one that we would probably not like. And that's doing something like being a good role model. You know what I mean? You could do the bottle sign, right? Like, it's not a bad idea. It goes on brand with the city of Miami, but like, what if it was a positive message? Like, don't forget to call your mom and tell her you love her. Don't forget to invest in your Roth IRA every year and max it out, right? If you were to put those signs while you're getting bottle service, would that make headlines? I'm sure some people would post about it, right? But would it be as thrilling as seeing somebody do something that causes rage? Probably not. So you've got to take it up an extra notch. How can you be reckless with a positive sign? And I figured it out. Eventually, I'm going to do this. Mark my words. When I make a bunch of money to the point where I can be reckless with it, I'm going to get a sign at a nightclub that reads, "Don't forget to hydrate." And I will buy bottles, but it's going to be those $30 water bottles. You know, the really expensive Fiji ones. And when that sign comes out, I'm going to start handing out water bottles to everybody in the club. Just run a $10,000 tab of water bottles and signs that say, "Don't forget to hydrate." Everybody's going to post about that. And when they do, I'm going to follow up with a receipt, post it on the gram to show you how much I spent on water bottles because I care about your body's health. And I think that would make headlines in the city of Miami and would be a positive story. And that's the way we can reimagine this whole bottle service fiasco. And maybe even the nightclubs would participate and donate the bottles because they got to redeem themselves somehow. They knew it was a mistake to say yes to putting that sign out there the way they did. So why don't you balance it out with something positive? Reach out to me. If you're listening to this, I'll make it happen. Just make sure you put MiamiComedy.com on the sign and we'll call it even. That's the Miami Comedy Podcast. That's what I got for you today. Hopefully I ended this terrible, horrendous, offensive incident of attention in our city. But it goes to show the lengths people will go to get attention. And one day Miami is going to realize that, where living reckless eventually doesn't pay off. At least not yet. For now, we're riding it out and we're making the profits. Go ahead and be offensive in our city. As long as you're bringing the money in, we'll take it for now. But eventually, we're going to be like, all right, enough's enough. Here are this week's comedy shows. Still at Thank You Miami, Mondays and Fridays. And Tuesdays and Saturdays, we are back at Blackbird Ordinary. We also do the Miami Comedy Podcast live stream, the one you're listening right now, on Thursday nights. I am speaking to some venues to do a couple more shows. We'll see. Maybe we can fill in another 3 days in the week. But for now, the relationships we've got with these venues and the shows that we've been creating have been absolutely amazing. And if you want to go out and have fun without running up a bottle service tab and an offensive sign where the First Amendment is practiced on a nightly basis, go to MiamiComedy.com, come on out to a comedy show, and see what the Miami comedy scene is all about. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.